And week 2 is here in the NFL. Kevin Bowen, Chris Presley, rocking his Garin Catholic baseball shirt.
That's right.
Great news in the Big Ten today. Gotta love that. Earlier this morning, we're taping this Wednesday afternoon. Big Ten's going to play football. Sounds like they're going to try and get into the college football playoff picture. I was pretty curious about that. And that means Big Ten championship here still? Have you seen that?
I would think so. I didn't really dive into all the stipulations. I did have some friends text me some of the rules, like if a player tests positive, they have to isolate for 21 days.
Yeah.
Which is is
They're
huge.
very strict.
Yes.
Like 5% of their roster, has COVID, whatever, contact tracing. I think the season's done, or at least they can't play that week, something like that. So I thought I read mid-December Big Ten title game here, and then it's kind of cross division, I should say, matchup. So number 2 in the. It's not Leaders and Legends. I hope it's not still.
No, it's not.
Horrific name. I think it's just 2 against East, 2 against West, things like that. So I love it. Things appear to still be going pretty well NFL-wise, which I was curious how this week would unfold, with obviously half the league traveling last week. Today's pod, for those of us that remember last year's kind of second pod of the week, it was more of a preview of the upcoming game. We still have probably about 8 to 10 Twitter questions that I want to get to as well that we missed on Monday. And then obviously talking about the Marlon Mack injury situation. I just left Colts practice. As of right now, 3 guys on the did not participate list: Jack Doyle, Malik Hooker, Zach Pascal.
Okay.
3 notable names for various different reasons. Pascal got banged up quite a bit.
He did
in that game.
That doesn't surprise me.
Limping off special teams wise. I think he got blown up on a block too, and he actually was doing some light jogging out there. He was the only one out there of that trio. Hooker and Doyle will have to monitor as the week goes on. There's enough on the 53-man roster safety wise to probably make up for Hooker, and then Doyle you'd have to go on the you'd definitely have to go on the practice squad if for some reason. If he shows up with a neck injury, that would worry me a little bit because that's something he dealt with in camp. So we'll monitor that. And, Colts Vikings, baby. Week 2, here we go.
Let's go.
Home opener.
We got, Xavier Rhodes' former team coming in here.
I think he's going to be chirping a little.
Oh, yeah?
I think he's going to chirp a little bit Sunday afternoon. I know he's kind of playing it. He kind of laughs it off a little bit, playing his former team. I think I could see him grabbing Matt Eberflus and saying, let me follow Adam Thielen around, and, Matt being like, let's just try and get 80% completion percentage against us and move on.
I hope he does, because I did watch the Zoom meeting that the Colts put out, and he was like, it's all love. Yeah, now I can tackle them, but they're still my boys over there. And that kind of had the NBA feel to me, where it's like, no, I want you to go hit them, okay?
Yeah.
Come on.
Football's different. Xavier's saying that, but that team just cut you with 2 years left in your contract. You can have warm fuzzies. You can give them whatever you want to give them pregame, but when that ball's kicked, Xavier Rhodes is a competitor, and I fully expect him to be a little bit chirpy with his former team.
What did you see from the running backs today at practice? Obviously, Mack going down. There's going to be, the load's going to go on Taylor and Hines, and
right. This is our the biggest storyline of the week. And first, let me just say how bad I feel for Marlon Mack.
Terrible.
I find it interesting, Chris, and it's very candid by Frank Reich, how when he's talked about Marlon Mack this week, he has indirectly addressed the contract situation of saying how bad he feels for Marlon's family is what he throws in there. And you don't often hear maybe a coach say that, but it couldn't be more apparent in this situation because you get one major payday as a running back. Hopefully, honestly. Maybe it's just a rookie contract and you never sniff that second contract. But Marlon Mack might be still looking at a second contract. Obviously, he'll get some contract, but nothing of the security that he was looking at. And just an Achilles injury, while there's been all these advances in ACL and other injuries, you feel like guys come back from really quick. Achilles is always something I think we still worry about of this is a full year sort of ordeal. And obviously a running back, it goes without saying how they are treated around the NFL and especially contractually. So again, just feel absolutely awful for Marlon Mack. And I also look at this offense and think, man, Phillip Rivers, there's a lot, again, that I thought was positive about Sunday. There were some definite negatives. I got an article posting up on the site tomorrow morning that will touch on that. But, I think I stressed this during the offseason, Chris, for Phillip Rivers to be at his best or be at the level the Colts think he can be at, you need health and elite play from your O-line, and you need your skill group to be as diverse as possible.
Yeah.
That Chargers skill group, that might be the best wideout duo in the league, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And Rivers still struggled, for a large chunk of last season. So, again, when you're losing a Burton, now you're losing a Mack, and it's at the position that suffers the injuries the most in the NFL, that's where I worry about the skill group. And I guess I do want to hit on each individual running back, so let me make one more point before we get into that. I do think, in a weird way, I don't expect the production to decrease too much from the running back position. It'll look differently, like not be the split that we obviously were projecting at the start of the year, but I still think from a pure production standpoint, as long as health cooperates, the yards at the end of the year, I don't think will be that different from a run game standpoint.
Because the way they mix in the pass?
Not necessarily that, because I just think Jonathan Taylor is a good football player.
Yeah.
And he's ready. He should be ready. When you draft a running back at 41, when he comes from the best collegiate rushing offense you can come from, the most pro-ready college rushing offense you can come from, it's not like Jonathan Taylor needed to watch a whole lot. He was going to watch for a bit because you had Marlon Mack, not because he needed to develop in some key areas. I like 6 catches on 6 targets out of Jonathan Taylor week 1. That was a question that we had. How could he handle that passing role? He's still going to have to show up in pass protection, and I think that is a question. The consistency might not be there as much, but, we said it on Beers with Bowen. One of our, questions over unders that we did late in the show was, who's going to have a higher yards per carry this season? Mack or Taylor? And I said Taylor, and I felt confident with that answer. So, again, it won't look the same, but I do think if you can stay healthy, which is still a huge if at that position, and I think it's a big reason why they worked out Lamar Miller earlier this week. It wasn't necessarily to come in and be your 4th running back. It was, shit, if we have one more injury here, now you're in scramble mode big time.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's how I kind of look at things, but certainly Taylor's going to be the starter.
Okay, well, you want to run through the backs. Is that all you had on Taylor? You want to speak to him a little bit more?
No. Let's speak a little bit more to it. Again, Chris, 3 things. Physically, you don't worry about him. I mean, the guy is, 220 whatever and running 4.3 and carried a heavy workload at Wisconsin. I think that's key as well. This was not I'm part of an Alabama rotation of running backs. This was, dude, you got to tote it 20, 25 times every game. So if Jonathan Taylor touches it running back-wise, carry-wise, 15 or 20 times on Sunday, that won't shock me at all. When you looked at the opener, and I thought Nick Sirianni hit on this yesterday, we didn't see it really in the run game. He had, 2.2 per carry, I want to say it was. But, man, when he got in the open field in that pass game, I mean, he ran away from some dudes that I'm kind of like, this is the NFL.
Yeah.
Guys don't move, guys don't weigh as much as you do and run away from people like you are doing here. I'm like, gosh, is the juice box on Jacksonville a little bit, toned down from an energy standpoint. But I definitely noticed that burst, and that's where I get back to the home run ability of. That's where he can really impact things. But if I'm Frank Reich, I don't attack this with kid gloves. I say, Jonathan Taylor, here you go. You're our starting running back, and you're more of the starting running back like Marlon Mack was the starter last year. I mean, Mack was the bell cow, the heavy lifter in the run game. That's how I treat Jonathan Taylor right now, and adjust as needed. If you don't feel like he can handle that much after watching him in a game or two, or there's some pass protection issues, okay, I'll react differently. But again, I'd be giving him at least 15 carries on Sunday.
Yeah. So when they come out in their first offensive set, he is the running back that's coming on the field.
I think he's a starter. I do. we saw Hines a lot earlier in the game on Sunday, and I guess I'll get into Hines here. I think that had a lot to do with the no-huddle approach of he's your best kind of third down-ish passing game. You trust him a lot. And I'm good with the no-huddle that the Colts used on Sunday. I know I wanted to see them pound it a little bit more, and I stand by that. Was what Reich was thinking of. Up-tempo, wear them down. And the no-huddle is going to be in the game plan every week. And it's just, Reich said today, kind of a feel thing, how often he wants to use it. I think I speak for a lot of people and say, use it more. I mean, I'd love to go back and analyze all the no-huddle drives the Colts have had since Andrew Luck in 2012 and see their success rate. It has to be through the roof.
Yeah.
So, Hines, I was surprised certainly that I think he had, I don't think he had the most carries. I think he had the most rushing yards of all the running backs on Sunday.
He did, 28.
And then, God, that's such a low number.
I know. All of them were low.
I do think the run blocking was an issue. Pass blocking, the Colts are gushing about it. They said one of the best games, which, not to get off on a tangent, but I'm like, the Colts are saying that's the best pass protection game they've ever seen. One of the best that they've seen. And I'm like, which Glowinski a few times, not great. And Rivers wasn't sacked in 46 dropbacks, which, is something there. My worry more is this. If that's the best one of the best pass protection games you've ever seen, and Rivers still throws a couple picks, what happens when there is some more pressure?
Yep.
That's where my worry comes in. But getting back to Hines, obviously, how many catches did he have? Do you have it up there?
Hines had 8 receptions for 45 yards.
That's a huge, huge number there. 15 touches. I wouldn't have expected that out of Hines week 1. And he outsnapped Taylor by quite a bit as well, which, again, I think has to do more so with the no-huddle. You passed it as much as you did. Hines showed me a little bit more as a running back on Sunday than I've seen before. That's intriguing.
Yes.
But I still go back to this, Chris. When when Mack has been hurt before, Hines' role has never significantly jumped. Because, he's a running back, but he's not really a running back. He's kind of this whatever. This kind of gadgety guy. So I'm not sitting here being like, he's definitely going to have a huge expanded role. But then I watched Sunday and I'm like, well, he did a couple things that I like. So I still would rather have him, punt. Nah, I think you leave him a punt returner, but I'd rather kind of still have him in the third down, primary receiver, can run it when you need to in the no huddle, stuff like that, and give Taylor and Wilkins more of the early down roles.
With Hines, you mentioned it yesterday on Twitter. How awesome is it to see him mic'd up? I thought
that was great.
So refreshing to see even a pro athlete in his third season now, standing back there, relax, stay focused, relax. Even those guys get so amped up. It's like, okay, focus in. We'll be all right.
I watched that. I'm like, Nyheim Hines, outside of running 4.3, is a normal human being.
Yeah.
It just down to earth I think is what I tweeted, and just more of the common, human you feel like with just some of his raw reactions, and just a guy that you feel like is enjoying what he's doing, but then, isn't naive to the pressure and the nerves that face him.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis. So, I think that's what we'll see from Hines. And Wilkins, I think a little bit more of an expanded role. Obviously only played one snap offensively on Sunday, so, that speaks for itself. But I feel like if you need a guy to handle multiple series, Taylor, whatever, twist an ankle and has got to get checked out for a series or two. Wilkins on first or second down, I'm perfectly okay with. I think we've always been kind of a Hines Wilkins, fans on this podcast. And certainly, you've seen it, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
Fans of the Colts love Wilkins. And the number, it's astonishing. It's 5.8, I think it is, per carry in his career. And this is a guy that's not just carried it 5 times. He's carried over 100 times in his career. So, this is why you keep him on your 53. This is to have that insurance policy of as we sit here right now, the Colts don't have a fourth running back on their 53. We saw them bump Reese Fountain up and put Marlon Mack on IR. So, and that's not surprising to me because you don't use a fourth running back. It just doesn't happen on game days. Now, one more injury, and it's DEFCON at the running back position. But for now, this three-man group, I think, can work. I had some people saying, well, Jonathan Williams is on the Lions practice squad. Would you go and try and nab him? Or, obviously we saw them work out C.J. Prosise, a Notre Dame guy, former third-round pick of the Seahawks. Lamar Miller, Devontae Freeman, those names as well. I don't think you can bring any of those guys in here and say, here's a game day role. I think it's all more of just, we've got to do our homework because if one more injury happens there, now we're really, really scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I kind of look at running back for the Colts right now. Again, Taylor is your starter. I know I was saying draft Mack, which I stand by, but I hope you drafted Taylor because he is now the guy with the old torn Achilles for Marlon Mack.
Yeah, and back to your point, just one more thing on Mack in regards to the payday. When you look at his stats, considering he played a quarter and a half of football and had 56 total yards, and you think that that's how they were likely going to use him for the year, he would have been able to go back to the Colts or any other team with quite a resume from this year and say, hey, look what I can do when you put the ball in my hands.
Yeah, and Frank Reich, when he talks about Marlon, and I think there's a lot of realness in these comments, he keeps on saying just how explosive and great he looked throughout camp, and even the first quarter. I mean, I noticed Mack, what did he have? He had to have over 6 per carry in that first quarter.
6.5 yards per carry.
Yeah, I mean, and it caught the ball out of the backfield a couple times, so it's just it absolutely sucks. It absolutely sucks that he's having to go through this now, and I don't know if we had a Twitter question on this. I know we did on Monday, and I had a buddy of mine text me after the show on Monday, like, oh, I haven't listened yet, but just curious to your thoughts. Do you think this improves Mack's chances of coming back? So much can change in the next 4 months, Chris, 5 months, whatever it is, till March. But I do. Mm-hmm. I think this improves Marlon Mack's chances to come back here. It's weird. It's awkward. It's not ideal. But I could see Marlon Mack still playing for the Colts. I don't think you go with that saying he's my number 2 back. You can't be naive like that. You know me. I still like drafting running back every year. So, but still, I could see Mack coming back because, again, he's still incredibly young.
He is.
Incredibly young.
Okay, Kevin, you mentioned we got a couple Twitter questions left over. We want to jump into those.
Cool.
All right, first one comes from Old Daner. Question is, given the defensive woes and sometimes getting too cute like the play with Brissett this last weekend or lining up Luck out wide, if we revisited the 2018 offseason, is it safe to say that we would have rather picked Vrabel? He's been a right guy, but he thinks that he's might just be a play caller in this league. What are your thoughts?
Wow, we're not holding back to start old Twitter questions here.
Nope.
Who is that from?
Old Daner.
Old Daner. First let's go back to 2018 offseason. Vrabel, Matt Nagy, Josh McDaniels. I think that was kind of the trio at the time. Matt Rule, what was interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So I would group him more into that. And basically why I'm saying that is clearly in Chris Ballard's eyes, Mike Vrabel was a better candidate than Frank Reich. There was a reason why he was looking into Mike Vrabel at the time and admittedly didn't think about Frank Reich really. And then you had the next list of candidates, and it was, I think, Leslie Frazier, Buffalo's defensive coordinator, Dan Campbell, who I believe is still in New Orleans. If he's not, maybe he's moved on. But and then obviously Frank. So I think it's 2 different tiers, and I think Chris, would admit that. I don't know if you'd ever really ask him that, but now you look at Vrabel and Reich's resume a couple years into this. I mean, win-wise, they got to be nearly the same. Tennessee's gone 9-7 back. They've gone 9-7 every year for the last 4. So that's 18-14, and Reich's gone 10-6 and 7-9. So I mean, virtually the same on regular season wins. Obviously, you've had Tennessee make the longer playoff run. Where I think I agree with Old Daner is this. Have been a right guy, but he might just be a play caller in this league. I feel like at times I'm curious if Frank fully grasps all the control he has as head coach of this football team. You are the head coach of an NFL football team. You know what that means? If you wanted to, you control every decision that happens on Sunday afternoons and Monday through Saturday. And outside of personnel, you pretty much run the damn show.
Yep.
That's a lot of authority. And it's something that I remember listeners of this podcast, if they recall, which if they remember this far back, they should worry about their lives. But thank you for listening for the last 2 years. When this head coaching search began, I think the offensive mind was always something people wanted. But I've talked about how I like how Mike Tomlin handles things. Belichick, Pete Carroll. And I know it's easy to slot like 3 coaches that have had great success, but they aren't calling plays. They're managing the operation on game day. And game days in the NFL are bleeping chaotic. And time management is nuts. And I think Frank's actually done a really good job with that. But, when to go for it, when not to go for it, field position, go for 2, not all those things. I would, if I were a head coach, that's the only thing I'd want on my plate game day. I wouldn't want that responsibility of play calling on, offensively and defensively. Certainly, I'm on the headset and I hear everything. And if I can overrule, I'll overrule. But I would trust, my OC, my DC to hopefully handle those responsibilities. So that's where I think it's difficult in how Reich runs the operation. I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. And I think there's a lot of aspects of him as a head coach that I like. But, yeah, man, I get to a point where, I'd be walking into Matt Eberflut's office and demanding some things. And you have that authority.
You have to, yeah.
This is not, just because Chris Ballard hired him, I'm not allowed to handle it in the way that I want to. No,
you're the coach. This
might be your one shot.
Yeah.
That's just life. So that's where I would go with Dana a little bit there. And kind of siding with that. And, you guys have heard me say this. I think Mike Vrabel's a damn good football coach.
Oh, yeah.
And so sure, that maybe they would be better off, but you look at the resume, outside of Tennessee getting on this. And some people would say, screw that. Vrabel's all about running the football. that ain't going to last, I think from a culture standpoint, though, I like what Vrabel has built there. And Vrabel doesn't, or at least he didn't call the plays defensively. I think Dean Pease was handling that the past couple of years.
This question comes from Craig. It would seem to him that the best strategy for the offense would be ground and pound and ball control, like we did against Kansas City last year. This also eliminates mistakes from Rivers, yet the offense did look great in a no-huddle, up-tempo approach against Jacksonville. What do you think they should do? What do you think they should do moving forward?
Craig, it's a great question. Great question. I want the no-huddle in the game plan every week. I do. I don't know how much I would use it, but when this offense gets in a rut, that's what I'm going with. And, yes, there's an element to saying, okay, keep sticking with the run, and I agree there, and I know that's my biggest strength, but I just also love what a change of pace no-huddle can do throughout a game. So I'd sprinkle it in. I don't think – and even those Manning teams, I don't know. How many times do they really go no-huddle for 60 minutes? It's a hard recipe to use the entire game. As far as this week, the Vikings D-line has been a huge issue, or at least was in week 1. So I would be, again, continuing to pound it and continuing to look at my O-line and say, all right, boys, that was a wake-up call. We weren't as effective. Frank has admitted we should have ran it more, blah, blah, blah. But I think from a blocking standpoint, I thought that O-line could have done better. Your running backs were under 4 yards per carry. So the key thing, and this will be in that Rivers piece I'm posting tomorrow, you just got to play from ahead. And I know that's like so easy and so basic to say, but when Rivers gets into obvious passing situations, I think he was 2 of 7, I want to say, on balls over 15 yards, maybe 10 yards, something like that. Think about the 2 picks. One was 3rd and 10, and the other was when you're down 4 with 5 minutes to go in the game. It doesn't get more obvious than that passing situation-wise. He can't be in those situations. And again, I know it's so much easier said than done, but if you finish off a couple of those drives, and Rivers admitted it, if I hit Doyle and I'm up 14-0, he doesn't feel like he's got to play hero ball a little bit more. So, really good question, Craig, but I'm going to be week to week. That's how you roll in the NFL.
Daniel wants to know, with the elevation of Fountain to the roster as a wide receiver, will that move Hines out of the special teams role now that it does have an increased role on the offense with Mack being out?
I first looked at this question and was like, no, I don't think so. But now that I've looked at it a couple times, I think it's a really fair question. Now, do you trust Isaiah Rodgers to handle punt returns? It goes back to our question I think we got from Tyler a few weeks ago about, is there more of just a ball security guy to handle punt returns? It's kind of this kicker thing. I'd rather be safe. If you break one punt return, whoop-de-doo. Mm-hmm. But just don't fumble the freaking ball.
Right.
It was a muff in the Steelers game, I think, to start the game.
Yeah.
I believe the other night. It's just like.
And then that Tampa, like the pooch kick.
Those things.
Control the ball.
Think about the pooch kick last year when the Steelers got that. A safety? Colts got a safety, and then I think Rodgers misplayed it, and all hell, it makes me yell ball when I'm on the couch and ball. It's just
and you can't do that this year.
I just ball. That's what I got to go with. I could see Rodgers doing both returns, but I don't. Fountain getting called up. I'm kind of like this, Chris. Okay, you have 7 wideouts on your 53-man roster. The Pascal I watched today, I don't see him missing much time. Maybe miss a game, but, he looked decent to me. I guess, do they trust Fountain more as your 4th wideout than Patman? Because that would be the breakdown. Because, you have Hilton,
mm-hmm.
Campbell, who outsnapped Hilton, Pittman. So there's your 3 that'll play a ton. Pascal played 40-some snaps, 40 of 70, a decent amount, something around there. So now who becomes that Pascal role, I guess?
Right.
Your other wideouts were Patman and then Doolin. Mm-hmm. Doolin is only special teams. Patman and Fountain, both of them, it's kind of like they'd never really played in the NFL. So, I don't know. Maybe Reese, I wouldn't give Reese 40 snaps. But, if you're banged up at tight end and you need 3 wideouts, do you play Pittman 90% of the snaps? One thing about the Fountain-Hines thing, though, is Fountain's not a slot guy. Hines is more the slot,
mm-hmm.
gadgety guy. Fountain's definitely not that.
This question comes from Alec. Could you see the Colts trading for a guy like Patrick Peterson? And if so, what would it take? He could see Peterson playing the role like Mike Mitchell did a few years ago and helping out a position group, the outside corner, that looks to be in need.
Well, shit, I don't know about you, but the Cardinals didn't look in tank mode to me.
No.
I mean, that was a damn good football win they had on Sunday. Alec, trades middle-ish late round pick. I don't know, 4th, 5th, something. Who knows? Leonard Fournette didn't go for anything. It's the old debate that you have with player trades. But I do worry about outside corners. I do. Going back watching the game a couple times now, Rhodes, I said he looked like Antonio Cromartie on Monday. That might have been a bit harsh, but he didn't make me feel very comfortable about things. So there were some nice plays he had. I mean, he was in coverage for the PI, but still the PI was a 30-yard play and a huge play in the game. So, outside corners, what are you going to do? There are some out on the market. Again, you're probably an injury or a straight benching away from being enticing to those outside corners wanting to come here and get more of a starting role.
Well, props to you, Kev, because I know it's your job, but to rewatch that defense from Sunday would not be fun.
Oh, man, and to hear Spiro and Archuleta again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get lucky having them so often.
Yeah.
Okay, this one comes from Matt. He's wondering if you could summarize your thoughts on Dan Dockich's Twitter rant. GM, players, local media, and fans. He does have some valid points, but mostly crazy talk, he thinks.
Well, Matt, you and about 70 other people that have my phone number have been asking me about that over the last 24 hours. Dan, per usual, extremely entertaining, very vocal about Ryan Grigson and Chris Ballard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't read every single tweet, but I think I had the gist of it, of, pretty much Grigson's win-loss record, over just blows really Ballard's out of the water, and then doesn't believe that the local media is critical enough of Ballard and Reich. Two things with this, Chris. I disagree with Dan on one point, and I agree with him on the other. I guess I'll start with my agreement, and it's why I wrote the article just before camp started and tweeted it out again on Saturday afternoon. This season is about proving it without Andrew Luck. And so many people are quick to look at the Grigson era and say, well, he just won because he had luck. And I've mentioned the record on this podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
Grigson teams were 6-4. 6-4 without Andrew Luck. And the Ballard teams right now are 11 and, I guess, another loss, 11-22. I mean, 10 games is the biggest sample size in the world? Maybe not. Is it a notable sample size? Yes. I mean, 6-4, and think about it, all the Luck stuff was in season. Theoretically, wouldn't that be harder to get a team ready when you're making a switch in season, middle of the weeks, things like that? So, that's where Dan is certainly spot on about. Everyone is very quick to say, well, it's luck. It's all about luck. And, well, no, it's not. When Chris Ballard said on day one, it's not about one player. It's been about one player in his tenure. This team has been 10-6 with luck, winning a playoff game, and 10 games under 500 through 30-some games without him. And that's with them saying they've got a top 20 quarterback in Jacoby, starting the vast majority of that game. And obviously Rivers would definitely fall into that boat. So that's where, again, I've written it, and I could not agree more with Dan on that. Where I will strongly disagree with him is, though, year 4 of Chris Ballard, year 4 of Ryan Grigson, the foundation is in a much better place now than it was year 4 of Grigson. Think about that. So year 4 of Grigson would have been 2015 season is getting ready to start. Missed on the 2013 draft. Missed on the 2014, like clear misses in both of those drafts. Missed on the 2013 free agent class. Tried to come back in 2015 with Luck still in the rookie contract and make up for it. And 2015 ended up being a miss. 2015 ended up being a missed draft. And you look at Ballard and the drafts, much better foundationally. I mean, obviously you drafted 2 All-Pros and where you're at with some other pieces you feel really good about. The roster's a lot younger. It's not kind of a bit of an aging roster that I felt like with the Luck teams you had kind of peaked. You were getting into the 8-8 in 2015, getting into the 8-8 in 2016, and you had kind of reached your ceiling level in that regime. And I will say this as well. I don't think Grigson has done any favors and he hired the man, so I guess it's him to blame. But I don't think Chuck Pagano was giving you much of an advantage week in and week out. I think Frank Reich gives you more an advantage, which would then mean, well, shouldn't the Colts be winning at a higher rate without Andrew Luck? So, I guess that's where I sit. I disagree, big time with, again, where this roster is at and how it looks moving forward. But at the end of the day, this is a bottom line business. Mm-hmm. And I think on this podcast, I don't consider myself sliding into, where maybe Dan refers to the rest of the local media or whatever he says with that. I think we've been very honest in asking the questions. Because how do you not ask the questions? And unless you're going 13-3 and winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl, you ask questions. You're trying. Jim Irsay wants multiple Super Bowls. He doesn't want a team that's going 500. So if a team's going 500,
right,
and the franchise quarterback isn't there, we are going to. And I think people are afraid to raise questions. I do. I think people are hesitant, and everyone is. We've fallen into this trap. I think with Chris Ballard, especially of savior. I'm like, whoa. We can ask questions. Like it's not crystal clear perfect, and Ballard's admitted that, and I don't know, I think we get these rose-colored glasses a bit, and I'm like, no, let's ask and express concerns, see where things are at, how do they compare to other people around the league, and see where this franchise is at moving forward. So this is a massive season, and yeah, boy, Dan was ranting.
I mean, that's your job. Your job is to ask the questions, and they know that, or they should know that, just like they have a job to do too. They should understand that if they fail at their job, you're going to ask them why.
For sure, and I would say mostly Dan is probably referencing, local media not asking questions enough of questioning where this franchise is. I mean, the piece I wrote this morning on the pass defense, I don't know how much more I can hold Matt Eberflus's feet to the fire there. It's an absolute joke. The first sentence is, another week, another NFL record set against the Colts.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're at right now with this pass defense. So, I feel like we do a very good job with it on this podcast. I will stand by what I've said before. I think Chris Ballard and Frank Reich can get this done. And I don't know, maybe I'm going on a limb here. I think they will get this done. But the results have got to start turning. Jim Irsay's got a leash, but Jim Irsay also is, he was a pissed off human being, I guarantee you, about that week 1 result, as he should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So some results have got to start occurring before the crazy question we got 2 weeks ago. Why isn't Ballard getting a contract extension? What, we just hand those out like I give my nephew a sucker when he comes over? Like, come on now.
Kevin, can you explain to Jonathan why, since we know what we have had in McLaughlin, we didn't go get him and instead got Matt Gay, who was cut from Tampa Bay?
Yeah, okay. So for those that don't know, the Colts obviously cut Chase McLaughlin, didn't sign him back to their practice squad. He's now with Minnesota, ironically enough. He's protected as well in their practice squad. Matt Gay kicked for the Bucs last year, 5th-round pick. Didn't kick very well. I don't know, 78%, something like that. Missed a bunch of extra points. He lost the job to Ryan Suckup this year. So, couple questions. Did McLaughlin want to come back? I mean, it's a two-way street here again. They've got to want to come back. And Chase McLaughlin, he's probably got a little bit of a class. I mean, he's got a resume. Mm-hmm. He can probably pick and choose some spots. And then, secondly, which this might sound foolish, did the Colts want him to put pressure on Rodrigo Blankenship? Of like, oh, yeah, there's that other dude. And he's just one promotion away from taking your spot again. Now, part of me says this, who gives a I mean, Rodrigo Blankenship kicked at Georgia. You don't think Kirby Smart was trying to recruit over Rodrigo Blankenship? Like, that's life. Come on, it's the NFL. Pressure's pressure. And I thought Frank Reich actually said that pretty candidly about them signing Matt Gay of like, you just missed a 30-yard field goal. We need to cover our ass, and rightfully so. The Colts are doing the smart thing here in bringing Matt Gay in, just having a, COVID, non-COVID, I don't care. Mm-hmm. You need to have someone else in your building. I don't care if it puts pressure. It allows that you have Matt Gay and another team's not going to get, if Matt Gay is the right guy for the job at some point, whatnot. Blankenship deserves a leash, like definitely. He's not a 47-year-old injured kicker like Adam Vinatieri was last season. And I thought Blankenship's other kicks looked really good. Ball just coming off his foot on Sunday. But again, the Colts can't make the same mistake twice.
No.
And they made it last year. And I need all the kicker safety that I can get. I can't believe this, Chris. Someone, I think it's Jay, who is a good follow on Twitter and just tweeted in questions before. He was giving me pushback on Twitter yesterday about, I don't know why you're worrying about the kicker. Is it at the top of the list of my worries right now? No. Is it on the list of worries? Yes. So I'm going to give attention to it if I can. Like, if I have 8 issues, why not try and keep an eye on all 8 of them? Do some mean a little bit more than others right now? Certainly. But I'm going to make sure that I monitor that, because this is an undrafted rookie kicker. And I just let a kicker out the door in Chase McLaughlin, who didn't miss one time last season inside of 40 yards. One time. Extra point field goal. Yeah. Boy, I feel like I'm ranting on some of these questions, but they deserve some long answers. So I hope that covers things, Jonathan.
I'm going to add real quickly onto this because I know we got to get through these. I'm going to put an optimism hat on, too, and hope that by bringing in another kicker, just like baseball's bullpen, those guys kind of talk about pitches and how they hold the grip and stuff like that. Maybe another kicker, the camaraderie of just having a veteran behind you to talk about how you strike a ball, where you should probably kick from this hash, whatever. Could happen. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it certainly is another person in that room. Now, I think for Rodrigo, he probably looks at it as this is some competition. Mm-hmm. But it's just, this is smart. This is smart. What the Colts said yesterday was smart. I would have kept Chase McLaughlin because, again, I look at kicker as, and this is different from how I look at other positions. Other positions, I'm trying to find the highest ceiling. At kicker, I'm just trying like, oh boy, just get me to next week. Please get me to next week. If you make it from 52, great, but we're going to go for it on 4th down so often. That's not my first line of thinking. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I'm at with Kieran.
Zach's question goes back to Ballard. He says he knows around the league that there's a sentiment that he's a great evaluator and a very good GM, but at some point you're judged by your resume, and resume though, that is fair, no? And he realizes it's an overreaction time, but at the end of the day, we got to look at the numbers and what has he done, not have a winning record in his time here.
Chris, is there anything better than Week 1 NFL Twitter? I mean, it's awesome.
It's with every team, win or lose.
Oh,
and
every
that's what's
team.
great.
Oh, dude,
overreaction the first couple weeks, it's
fandom. I love it. I mean, I'm psycho. I'm psycho about Tiger. I'm psycho about Notre Dame. I mean, the stuff I think about Notre Dame basketball on a daily basis, they should put me in jail for it. Yeah, Zach, I mean, I think I hit on this a lot. We are evaluating, and we will critically ask the questions. That's what my job is, and it's very fair as a franchise. You've made the playoffs once in the last 5 years. Haven't won a division since 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Lost 7 straight season openers. I can continue to go. Is there a lot to like about where things sit right now? Yes. But from a tangible result standpoint, you haven't got it done. It's the whole trust the process. How long can we trust? It's one of those things where patience is necessary in some capacity, but sooner or later, W's, January football. Let's go.
Beginning of the podcast, we talked about the running back group. Matt wanted to know, is Jordan Wilkins still with the team after the Marlon Mack injury?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's your insurance policy, that fourth running back now. I mean, he's kind of your pseudo backup, first or second down right now, if you want to keep Hines in that role. So, oh, yeah, this is why you kept Jordan Wilkins.
K. Dizzle wants to know, are you sure Big Q is 100% healthy with his back? That 4th and 1 play didn't look good.
K. Dizzle. Don't think anyone's ever called me that in my day. Yeah, I didn't think he looked his best on Sunday. I don't know if it's bad. He was practicing today. And again, his best is like you grade him, with the heaviest curve you could imagine. He sets the curve, honestly, I should say. The back was weird, Chris, because he doesn't usually sit out Thursdays, and he wasn't on the injury report on Wednesday. So it was kind of one of those things where, like, oh, did that flare up? Did he wake up Thursday and say, this back isn't feeling good, I'm going to sit out today, and, I'll give it a go Friday and then play on Sunday. So, I don't know, I know Fletcher Cox and Geno Atkins, aren't the same guys maybe they were a few years ago, but those guys are coming up on the schedule, so you're going to get tested a little bit more than you were against Jacksonville, and certainly Minnesota's D-line they don't scare me really at all.
Brian wants to know, will Buckner be Ballard's version of the Trent Richardson trade? He knows that it's early, but fans were sold no ramp-up time that a rookie would have had.
Oh, gosh. Come on now. I mean, we're going there. Week 1, we're calling Buckner Trent Richardson. Holy shit. Man. Hey, let's remember Trent. He had a touchdown his first carry here.
Yep.
It was great. It was looking great. I mean, Colts are going to win the Super Bowl 27-7 over the 49ers. Man, come on. Brian, this is our week 1. Welcome to week 1, folks. My acknowledgement of this question will be this. July-ish, posted a story on it. The return has to be there on DeForest Buckner. I mean, you need return on this investment. The investment, it was huge. 13th overall pick and nearly $100 million. You need an all-pro.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Aaron Donald play. I watched Chris Jones play. I watched Cameron Hayward play. I mean, those dudes did some wrecking.
Yes, they
week
did.
1. DeForest Buckner's got to do some wrecking. And admittedly, he said he didn't take advantage of the one-on-ones. His best series, I don't know if I mentioned this on Monday. His best series was the first series of the third quarter. Tackle for loss, first play, I think, of the third quarter. And really, the Justin Houston sack was Buckner pushing that left guard, or I forget who the other guard is, back into Minshew. Minshew's got to take a couple steps back. Boom, there's Houston off the edge. But still, 6 tackles, 1 for loss. That can't be the norm for him. And that's just, that's the message the Colts sent with doing this trade.
This question comes from Tanner. Do you remember when the top 100 came out and Hines was talking about Nelson? He said, sometimes I don't look for another hole to pick up. I just run behind 56. Tanner found it very ironic that if he would have been patient with his run, he would have seen an easy walk-in touchdown on the right side.
Wow, this is interesting. I did not know, Tanner. I don't remember that, but I feel like I have heard Hines say something to that effect. I don't remember that specifically. Top 100, you guys have heard me talk about it. I don't really watch that show. But this is in reference to the 4th and 1.
Yes.
I tweeted out a video of it on Sunday, or maybe it was on Monday. There does look like there's a hole to the right. I think it's kind of a skewed, one of those slow motion. How open is that hole really? But still, it certainly looks like he get a yard. And if you're Hines, we'd be ripping him like none other had he stuttered in the backfield.
Oh, yeah.
And looked for that. It's 4th and freaking 1. Just run behind Nelson and go get a yard. I kind of agree with Hines. I'm like, wait, I have the number 6 pick and the 18th overall pick. Let me just put my head down and run behind them. And, okay, here's 3 feet, and the chains are moving. So I don't really rip Hines too much for that. I know a lot of people, when I tweet out that video, I said Nelson and Kelly should have been better on that play. I stand by it. They should have been better. We're talking 1 yard, folks. And both of them, their guys, got some sort of shot on Hines to where he couldn't get a yard there. Could Hines have been a little bit better with his vision? Maybe, but, on 4th and 1, man, I put 4th and 1 more on the O-line. I put it on the O-line first, and then I put it on the running back second. It's kind of what was I watching the other night? It was the Steelers game. They had a wideout catch a ball and just get stoned at the 2 or 3, and then just an incredible second effort. James Washington.
Yeah, Washington, yeah.
Just an unbelievable second effort, third effort to get in the end zone. Like, that's a play where I'm like, the quarterback throws you to a yard line, and you've got to go do the rest. And if you don't do the rest, fine. Go down and live to see another down. That dude just straight up.
Yeah, jumped over the corner, met the safety, and pushed the safety back.
It was crazy, yeah. I mean, it was wild. I'm glad that you remember that play because it was just, I sat there, I was like, oh my gosh. That's how I look at 4th and 1. Like, your O-line's got to do the heavy lifting, and then the running back can hopefully break a tackle if it comes to that. But if a running back's got to break a tackle on 4th and 1,
yeah,
you aren't doing enough in the trenches.
All right, 3 more here. This one comes from Jesse. How does Wilkins stay so slow on the depth chart? I think he meant to say low. I feel like every time he touches the ball, he runs for 10 yards. I'm sure the data says otherwise, but he is explosive, yet stays on the sideline.
It's just hard to involve a 4th running back, Jesse, especially when Wilkins doesn't have like a niche. Hines has got the niche, that specific receiving trait. He did, I think there have been some ball security questions with him at times, and he was really banged up last year in camp. And, when you watch the Colts run game early on, it's kind of like, where do you fit him in last season? So, yeah, it's just, I don't rip the Colts. I mean, the run game's been just fine. I don't rip them for that.
This is from Steven. Kev, he's disgusted. How can Rivers play so well, be really good at times, but just look like he's never played quarterback in crucial moments?
Steven, fourth quarters have kind of been the thing with Rivers, especially last season. We talked about it where Brissett wasn't risky enough in the fourth quarter. Rivers was too risky. That's how it boils down. His passer rating was terrible. Chargers were way behind. So many picks. I think half his picks came in the fourth quarter last year. I think where we're at with Rivers right now, Chris, is, you just worry about that arm strength a little bit. Mm-hmm. Outside the numbers, it just seems like it takes a little bit longer for that ball to get there, And when you wait in the NFL, oh boy. So what do? You avoid those situations. I mean, that's what this team has got to stay ahead of the chains, stay ahead on the scoreboard, because you don't need Philip Rivers throwing 10 passes outside the numbers and 15 yards down the field the whole game. Sprinkle it in. At times it can work. Play action, stuff like that. But when you're tipping your hand and it's obvious and you're saying it's a pass, expect to see some of the Rivers we saw on Sunday.
Yep. All right, final Twitter question comes from Scotty. This isn't the first time I've seen the Colts not ready to play. I think of many times last year in the Kansas City playoff game the year before. I'm not asking for Coach Reich's head, but being ready to play falls on him. I'm starting to get worried about the coach. Thanks for your podcast. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Scotty, it's a fair statement. I expected better out of this football team on Sunday. I know a big key for them this year is not playing in momentum, something we've talked about. Losing streaks have happened under Frank Reich, but I do feel like his team has always bounced back from either opening losses or just bad losses, like shutout 6-0 to the Jags, or, I guess last season, now that I think about it, there were more bad losses. But the Saints, you lost the Saints and you came back and you did kill the Panthers. I know the Panthers aren't, the Panthers were fired a coach. Now Will Greer starting that point. But still, 38-6, 38-6, I think was the score. So, it's a bit of a concern, certainly. But I do feel like for the most part, the Colts avoid under Reich these sorts of situations. I do. So yeah.
All right, Kevin, that was Twitter questions. Now
I got two more.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me slide in here. I want to mention Zach. Zach said, "Sorry, I had to hand you that first fantasy loss." Zach kicked my ass in fantasy, man. He kicked my ass, dude. Boy, I got ran over. I got way too many rookies on the team. He says, when I listen to Frank Reich's media, and Zach said that on Monday, basically he's asking, why don't we ask Frank more defensive questions about the defense?
Yeah.
In Zooms, he did say that we did a better job of that on Monday. This is before the press conference on Monday. He asked this. Zoom life is not ideal. I will start there. It's kind of like everyone gets a question in, and that's it. Of course, no one wants to hear me whine. We all deal with issues Zoom-wise here in 2020. I just don't think Frank is as candid with talking about the defense as he is with the offense. It's just he just I don't think he feels as comfortable, which kind of goes back to my earlier point.
Mm-hmm.
You're the head coach.
Yep.
I did find it interesting. Eberflus mentioned on Tuesday some of the issues the Colts had communication-wise in the game is because they're starting to do different things on third down this season. I like it. Obviously, didn't work out on Sunday. Different things defensively, that makes me happy.
Yeah, something's got to be different.
Exactly. That makes me happy. So I do like that. And then lastly, from Nathan, he says he's watching NFL Game Pass. Unfortunately, the All-22 is taking a while to come out this week. He wants my thoughts on the 49ers and Bills defenses, how they differ from the Colts. Well, first off, the Bills and 49ers have great talent. I would say the Bills do a really good job disguising things and just have aggressive corners. Tre'Davious White is certainly one of the best corners in the NFL. And I think their secondary is they're more versatile back there with how they play their coverages, stuff like that. 49ers, it's kind of like the old Seahawks defense. A lot of cover three for them. And, their personnel speaks for itself, up front, certainly, and when they had Buckner. Basically, my thing with the Colts is this. I get your core belief. I just want to see more of an adapting week to week. How many tricks are in your bag? Have some.
Yeah.
Have some. Because think about this. In a 3-week stretch this year, the Colts play Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and Aaron Rodgers in some order. The same defensive game plan is not going to work for those three teams.
Not at all.
Welcome to 2020 in the NFL. Teams have great diversity. It's a pass-happy league. This defense just doesn't make things stressful enough for opposing quarterbacks, and that is my big thing. So get quarterbacks out of their comfort zone. And, if you missed it, I wrote an article on 1075thefan.com about that.
Well, hopefully we can get back to some winning ways. First home game of the season. Excitement going to be downtown, hopefully, even though not that many fans.
2,500 in the building.
Can't wait.
Hey, something.
It's better than nothing. It is better than nothing. I've heard a lot of interviews from players around the league at some of those stadiums where they had no one, and they were like, I've never heard my team clapping on the sideline before. Like, you're used to hearing fans either boo or cheer regardless.
Right, some noise.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Kev, your 3 keys for this weekend's football game.
Yeah, first, better situationally. 440 yards and you score 20 points? Come on now.
Yeah.
That can't happen. And when I say better situationally, I mean making field goals along with just better in the red zone. Frank Reich said it great, I thought, earlier this week. You have 450-some yards, you should have 35 points. So better situationally. And I trust Reich. This is where, it's funny. Frank doesn't do this often, but he's done this a couple times this week. And I don't know if he's meant to do this. He's indirectly been a little cocky. And he said it to the point of, we weren't good in the red zone, and I'm paraphrasing here, but, that usually doesn't happen with me. And he's right.
Yeah, he
like
is
they're
right.
damn good in the red zone. That's arguably the thing I love the most about Reich and watching him as an offensive mastermind play caller. So I just trust him. I trust him. I trust Rivers to figure it out. Point two, attack a very unproven D-line and corner group. Now, hard to do both at the same time, so I want to attack the D-line group first, pound the run, and then attack those young corners. Boy, Aaron Rodgers made some throws on Sunday that old boy Phil just doesn't have. So I'm not going to act like you can just pick them apart like Green Bay did, but no Danielle Hunter, big loss. I mean, that's one of their worst defensive performances in Mike Zimmer history. So no Danielle Hunter's a big loss. Then you look at the Jets in a couple weeks; they're down 3 starters. So Colts are getting a decent break here injury-wise. But, yeah, I think you just got to be committed to the ground attack early on, and then eventually the play action, those things, help out the corners. And then lastly, control Dalvin Cook. That's kind of obvious, but he didn't have a huge week one. The other kid, Madison, actually had a nice game.
Yes, he did.
But still, I look at the first half against Jacksonville, Chris, and just Robinson, I think he was over 6 a carry in the first half. That can't happen. I want to force Cousins and force, a bit of an unproven wideout group outside of Thielen to beat me. So, those are the 3 keys for me on Sunday.
And what's your prediction?
Can I put you on the spot first? What are you going with? What's the line?
I don't know the line because I made that $100 bet and got screwed out of it, and I was like, you know what?
FanDuel had a great little parlay that I was able to hit. Bills to cover, Packers to cover against the Vikings, and the Ravens. So I was able to hit that. Now I've got a lot invested in the U.S. Open. I get terrible service in the studio.
Yeah,
so I can't find
I'll look it up while I'm talking. But basically, I would hope we bounce back, get a victory. I know that's cliche to say. I know it sounds like the typical talking head, but let's go with 31-24.
31-24. Okay, I'm seeing Colts favored by 3. So you might want to double down then. Put another 100 on the old Colts to cover if you're that confident. Or does that mean?
That scares me then.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I was, even with like the Pittsburgh game, I'm like 5.5. Why are they getting 5.5? And of course, it was close to that most of the game before they pulled away. But that's Vegas for you. They know what they're doing.
All right, I got Colts. I got them 27-24.
Okay.
Push. I think Buckner makes a big play late. Cousins driving. Buckner makes a big play. This team bounces back under Reich, I know they've started 0-2, previous regime, 2014, 15, and 16. And hell, I think 17 too, now that I think about it. Who I've been thinking about a lot this week, Chris, is remember the dude that asked us the odds of the Colts starting 7-0?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he say, I don't know, he said something absurd, like 70%. I don't know. He's like, I look at the schedule, and I'm like, dude, this is the NFL.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you didn't do that. But what I've said about the first 7 is 5-2 is kind of the barometer. Like, that's 5-2. And you're good. You lose Sunday, now you got to go 5-0. So don't put pressure on yourself. Avoid that. Avoid that at all costs.
I'm hoping that Paris Campbell has a heck of a ball game.
Dude, he played well. I thought he was the best individual player for the Colts on maybe him or Autry. Out-snap Hilton, some big plays. Obviously, the 15-yard flex shouldn't happen. Can't be doing that, but still, I liked what I saw out of Campbell. All right, man. 1 o'clock Sunday. Chris Presley, Kevin Bowen. We're signing off. Everybody have a great weekend. We got the Irish against South Florida on Saturday. SEC, Big Ten. I love it. SEC next week. Late Monday morning. Expect the next podcast. Any questions? You know where to find me. 1075thefan.com. See you.